Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Legacies, episode 214, titled There's a Place Where the Lost Things Go, which premiered Thursday, March 12th, 2020 on the CW. I'm recording at 10:30 p.m. on the same night. So huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm not going to time myself today, just because I'm hoping it's going to be less than 20, just because I do have a major project I really need to get back to that's due tomorrow. So I'll try to keep this short. But let's start with what happened in this episode. So the quote itself, there's the title, there's a place where the lost thing goes. This is where MG says it in his introductory voiceover when he first steps into the game, and it's in reference to the bar called Landon's. So I guess technically he says it to the audience, but there's that. Timeline-wise, here's the thing. Even though it's been like a month since we've seen 213, I'm under the impression that for our characters, it's only the day after the events of 213, and as you know, that's when everybody returned back from the prison world and dealt with Kai, all because of the fact that Jade is still sleeping in the old mill, and that's that rusty old building outside of the school. So I'm assuming it's only the next day. Otherwise, how long was she meant to stay there with Wendy and with Alyssa? So that's my assumption there. I will talk about another issue I have with the timeline later on in the episode, so later on in my video, so please stay tuned for that. The episode reminder, though, is the fact that we get this huge film noir simulation. I mean, when you see the promo for the first time, you're like wondering what the hell is going on, but then it makes sense why they do it, and I'll touch upon it in a moment. But the feature creature of the episode is not someone from Malivore. I mean, we do see the necromancer in a photo in this one, but the creature is technically Dark Magic Josie or Dark Josie. So we see her take full control once again by the end of the episode, which I'll touch base on. So episode breakdown, it's really, I'm going to consider only one storyline, even though there's multiple little ones inside of it. But essentially, it's the storyline behind the whole film noir scenario. And it's pretty much Emma giving these specific students a therapy session, which allows for the simulation to be its own chambre de chasse. So as you remember from the originals, I think it was in season 3. Yeah, season 3 finale. Freya had created the chambre de chasse that connected all 4 of the originals' minds together so that they could still be present, or their consciousness could still be present and interact with each other while their bodies remained unconscious during their 5 years or during their 7 years of sleep. So in this case, this therapy session, which was created by the real Professor of Artemis, allowed for people to have their own issues be transferred into this version of the chambre de chasse and have them be taken into a scenario that helped them come to the realizations of what they needed to based off of those inner issues. So we do see and in order to get out of the simulation, you had to find the ending to your own story. And that's why I said there's a bunch of mini little storylines going on based off of what the characters had to go through in this little chambre de chasse therapy. So with MG, we see him being a private investigator, and it looks like him needing to believe in himself and not be the sidekick anymore is what he needed to realize in order to get out. For Lizzie, she was like a washed up actress, like old school Hollywood, and hers was realizing that she would sacrifice herself for Josie. The exact same thing was for Josie as well, who was her publicist in this scenario, and it was the reverse where she would sacrifice herself for Lizzie. And then also you get Dark Josie, who was actually a separate entity from Josie in this scenario, and she was the killer in this chambre de chasse, killing everybody else, so it was only down to her and Lizzie to kind of mimic what the merge was all about. So that's something there. With Hope, we get her as the bar owner, and I think it really much looked like Rusario's from the bar in the originals in New Orleans. It really looked like that. I'm wondering if in this case Hope was essentially meant to kind of like inherit it in a sense. But anyways, and her realization, or she seems to think that she was able to get released from the simulation was because she chose to save someone else instead of running off to be happy with Landon, which has her very upset in the real world. Then we get Raphael, who is a photographer. I don't know what his realization was, because the moment that he developed the photos and he saw that it was the necromancer that was in the photos watching Josie poison the champagne bottle that was meant to go to Lizzie. I don't know if him actually remembering or recognizing that it was the necromancer is what got him out of the simulation, because the first time he flipped through the photos, the face was blurred. I don't know if that's also in reference to his recent abduction by the necromancer, or if his memory issue is due to like his long duration as a wolf. So I was a little iffy about what exactly Raphael was trying to learn here. And then with Jade, hers was very brief in the simulation, but she was a reporter, and apparently it was trying to enlighten her about her feelings for Josie, even though she expressly says that I did not need a simulation to tell me that I have the hots for Josie Saltzman. So there's that. And then we have Emma, who's supposed to be the only self-aware character in the simulation, and she was posing as a lounge singer, but she was also the first one to be killed off. And she had to wait for everybody else to wake up because she couldn't interfere without risking their own sanities to it. And then we have the real Professor Bartimus, who was MG's PI partner in the simulation, and yet we find out that his mind has been trapped in the simulation since Clark abducted him and took his place at the school and locked Bartimus in a locker. So his body would stay there while his mind was stuck in the simulation. And once MG was able to help him find the end of his own story, which is solving his case as Sherlock Holmes, he was able to wake up and be released from the simulation. So that's a very basic rundown of what the whole episode was about. But last scene of the episode showed Dark Josie destroying the school and escaping like Josie had originally dreamed about in her nightmares earlier on in the season when she first started using the sand clock. So that's something there. We also get the return of the Dark Wardrobe as well. Spider Rain's starting. So there's that. Now, character-wise with Landon, he is said to be out trying to fly again. His picture is only shown. He wasn't actually featured in the episode. With Raphael, we see his wound on the side of his rib. We see it twice, and it looks like it's not healing, which I'm a little surprised by since he is a werewolf, so I'm assuming there would have been some maybe not as fast as a vampire would heal, but I would assume that I would still see more healing happening between the first and second times I've seen the wound. The fact that it looks the exact same has me wondering if something else has happened that affected his healing on some level. I don't know. So there's that. And then with Emma, we find out that she's leaving the school again, because again, she was only meant to be there for a short little time, but also Dorian is leaving with her. So that's something as well. Tidbits very quickly. I already mentioned that Landon wasn't featured in the episode, and neither was Caleb nor Dorian. Though Dorian was mentioned, Caleb was not. So that's something there. And then also just another thing was the fact that Alark really only had 2 speaking scenes in this episode. One initially with Emma when they were saying their goodbyes, or she was saying a goodbye to him. And then again when him and the other students were facing off against Josie, who then turned into Dark Josie. So I was just a little disappointed in that. I thought he'd be a little bit more involved with the whole thing. But there's that. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. The reason I'm going to say Dark Josie is not because I'm not surprised that Dark Josie ended up being the killer in the whole scenario. What I was surprised was the fact that Josie was killed off. The regular Josie was killed off, because I assumed that it was Dark Josie and Josie still being in the same body, and it wasn't like they were 2 separate entities in the simulation, like what had happened. So when Josie originally died, it had me second guessing whether, okay, maybe she wasn't doing all these things. Like, it's more of like, I thought it was regular Josie blacking out and not knowing why she was doing all these things, and it was actually Dark Josie who was doing them. But then when she got killed off by someone else, it was more of like, how is that possible? Because I'm assuming that it's Dark Josie within Josie, but then to find out that no, it's Dark Josie outside of Josie, if that makes sense. So that was a shock right there. Not the fact that it was Dark Josie that was the perpetrator, but the fact of how they represented it. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was definitely a missed opportunity to have both Josies on screen together, but I can understand on a cinematic level how that could be tricky. So there's that. But let's move on to top 3 favorite moments. I really liked the whole film noir alter ego thing that we had going on, the whole simulation about it, how they explained it and how it made sense how it could happen the way that it did. So I do appreciate that. It was very, I mean, some shows would not be able to get away with having a complete twist like that. So it was pretty cool how it was done. It seemed like a lot of fun too. Yeah, at times it got a little bit confusing with the way they were speaking, but that's just on me. So that's like my understanding and stuff. But I enjoyed it for sure. So there's that. Another huge favorite I did have was between MG and Lizzie, specifically at their last scenes together in the episode where she apologizes to him and how like she acknowledges the fact that when things are good with her, she completely ignores him, but then when things start going bad for her, then that's when she comes running to him and she apologizes for that. And I like how they were talking about that aspect and how that's something she needs to change, but then he also said, I don't want you to stop coming to me, type of thing. So I do appreciate that. I also like his comic book references, especially when he was telling her that like, I don't know how to help Josie, but what's happening to Josie reminds me of a few comic book aspects, and that's something I am good at. So I'm looking through these to see if there's something in any way, shape, or form that could help Josie. So I do love that he's turning to alternative methods to try to help his friend out. So I do appreciate that, and the fact that they had their moment together was really sweet. Another favorite I did have was between Hope and Raphael, also having their own version of what MG and Lizzie were having, in the fact that they were talking about Landon and Hope's realizations because of the simulation, saying that she's very distraught over the idea that her and Landon are doomed, and that it's always her destiny to choose someone else over him, type of thing. And really appreciate that they were actually able to have a conversation, because as we last know, when Raphael had his memories returned of Hope, he declared that they couldn't be friends anymore, and then he disappeared. And then, so to have them actually have a conversation and be friends in this sense was something I really was missing. And it was just tough to see, like, yes, we know that Raphael still has feelings for her. So on one level, I feel bad for him when he is listening to Hope express how much she wants to be with Landon, but knowing everything is trying to keep them apart. I understand that, but then also at the same time, I do love that she was able to go to him and he allowed for the conversation to happen instead of just saying, no, I can't talk about this, type of thing. So I do appreciate that they had a moment together. And then another favorite I did have was between Jade and Josie. I did like that they confirmed in this episode that both of them had feelings for each other, yet I don't think they officially are aware of it, because I don't know if the dream that they showed of them kissing is something like the same dream that they had with each other, or if it's like they've had two different versions of the same thing happening, or if it was actually them in the dream where they kiss, or if they just think it wasn't and it was just a manifestation or something like that. But I do like that we got confirmation that Jade has feelings for Josie, and it looks like that Josie has the same as well, though I don't think they officially know that. But that leads into my peeved moment, which is the fact that I'm very pissed that their kiss was in a dream, because that just for one, dream kisses are like a cheap knockoff, because we get to see it, sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's real for the character. But at the same time, because dark magic was involved, I don't know if it was actually an actual kiss and it just so happened it was a dream, but they both felt it and were completely aware of it, or if it was real Josie kissing dream Jade, and then for her version, and then Jade kissing a dream Josie in her version, and they're not aware that the other one had the dream. So I'm not sure to what extent they're fully aware of what's happening between them. But I guess that's going to be put on pause because of what's happening with Dark Josie now. But that's a peeve there. And then another peeve I had was just because Caleb wasn't part of the simulation. And I would have really loved to have known what his alter ego would have been like and just how he would have pulled off the whole film noir vibe thing. I would have wanted to see that, and I feel like I was robbed of that opportunity. So there's that. But let's move on to random questions very quickly. First one, are Emma and Dorian cutting ties with the school, or are they leaving for research purposes for the school? Because as you know, Caroline is out in the world looking for a way to stop the merge. Like, she is still connected to the school. She is still head mistress as well, even though she's not on campus. So I'm wondering if it's something similar that's going to happen for Emma and Dorian, when they're still attached to the school, but they're doing other things outside of campus grounds to help them out, or if they're actually just cutting ties. It's more of like, I don't work for you anymore type of thing. Yeah, because I'm going to miss Dorian then, because I liked him. He was the token human on this show. Aside for Alark. Alark's always going to be the human, but then, like, at the same time, he was a former vampire, so it's like, Dorian's always been human. So it's like, so there's that. And the next question is the real Professor of Artemis now staying at the school since he's been freed from the simulation, or is that it for him and we're going to just say bye? So that's something there. But let's move on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 215, it looks like Dark Josie returns for her birthday after being away for a while. And it looks like Caleb wants to treat her as if she's another one of the monsters in order for them to combat her. But now here's the issue I have with the timeline, because Dark Josie's birthday, so this is supposed to be the twins' 17th birthday. But as you recall, they had their 16th birthday back in episode 106. Now, while I know for us it actually is roughly a year since the 2 episodes, so the fact that we'd get a birthday episode around this time for them makes sense. What I have an issue with is that in the characters' timelines, we should still be back in like October, November. Because with each episode that they've had, there's nothing that has told me that it's been weeks or months between episodes. It always seems like it's the day after the previous episode's events. The only time we had like a very significant time jump was in the premiere episode in 201, where we covered the span of the summer vacation within the 1 episode. Everything after that has always been the following episode taking place either a day or 2 after the previous episode. So with my count, that should put us in October, maybe November, because as you know, in the Christmas episode, in I think it's 208, Hope specifically, even though they dealt with Santa and Krampus, Hope specifically said that it wasn't Christmas, that it was October for them. So that was one thing right there. Also, the fact that they dealt with Cupid, yet back in episode 211, I believe, but it wasn't Valentine's Day for them. So like so for me, I'm thinking these characters in like October, November, but the twins' birthday is supposed to be in mid-March. So that's why I'm a little confused when it comes to the timeline, when it comes for these characters, because it doesn't add up for me. Because then it's like, where the hell did the last 6 months go for these characters? You can't tell me that. Because also, when they were stuck in the prison world, yes, I can understand that time worked differently in there, but one, it didn't, because they still said it was 10 years when it was actually 10 years in the real world, being 10 years in the prison world. So that's one thing there. And then also in the previous episode, when it was just the focus on the school, Hope said that it had only been a day since they were sent into the prison world. It wasn't like they've been looking for a month or a few months trying to get away for them to get out. That wasn't the case. So that's why I'm a little floored by what they're doing with the timeline here. And that's kind of an issue I have too. It's either for shows, you either have episodes that have specific times attached to it, or you always have the same amount, or you always stick to the characters' timelines matching with the real world timeline. So if we happen to go on a month break, then your characters should have a month break between the episode events. So that's always an issue I've had, was if you're going to stick with dates and times, stick to it in a convenient way that makes sense, as opposed to like just sticking random gaps when it doesn't match up with the events that have happened. So I'll leave it at that. Let's move on to synopsis for the episode. It reads that when things take a dark turn on the twins' 17th birthday, Lizzie is left to make a difficult decision. Meanwhile, Hope takes drastic measures when she and Alark clash over how to handle an issue involving Josie. Finally, Raphael makes a heartbreaking discovery. I have a bad feeling that discovery is going to have to do with his birth mom for some reason. It's either that or it's connected to Landon. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see about that. But that is pretty much it that I want to say about the episode. What do you guys think about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all the good stuff, all fun in one place. Go check that out. I am behind. I'm fully aware. My term 2 is supposed to end in a week, and then I have 2 weeks free, so I'm hoping within those 2 weeks I could get caught up on a lot of things Tumblr related, WordPress related, which is also linked down below. If you want more organized links and details, check that out. But right now I'm just being swamped with those final assignments that I really should be doing right now instead of recording, but I wanted to record and just have it done and actually be genuine first thoughts. So I'm doing this for you guys as well. But otherwise, that is pretty much it. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back to see what they say about the next episode. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. And in lieu of this coronavirus, please be safe and please be hygienic. We try to prevent the spread as much as you can. Because at this rate, it's just pandemic levels. It's unbelievable. I didn't think we'd get to this level. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. So till next, guys, take care. Bye.